Hey, yo, what is going on, you guys? Got a brand new episode of Buy or Bust for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the first steps, the thing. Would this card be good? Will it be bad? What are the highs, the lows? What does this card synergize with? What does it get countered by? And 3 different decks for this card as well. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. In case you guys did not know, the thing First Steps is the brand new Series 5 card releasing on Tuesday that is a 5-cost, 6-power card with the ability End of Turn +2 power. Once per game. If your side here is full, destroy an enemy card here with less power. This is what it looks like on screen. Similar to Human Torch, this is an if-then statement. So functionally, you will gain +2 power, but if your board is full here at the end of the game, in this exact location, his lane, he will instead destroy a card instead of gaining +2 power. So a very interesting card nonetheless, but let's talk about the key cards that synergize with it as well as some key counters. Starting off first and foremost, we're going to have Kitty Pryde. We're using Kitty Pryde as a lane filler in order to be able to fill that lane, so the thing can use his ability to destroy another card here. Also, Human Torch goes well with this card because Johnny, you're trying to fill the lane as well to be able to double Johnny's power. And then lastly, we're going to go Invisible Woman First Steps. Just like Johnny, this is an activate card. She's a 3/5 that gives your your end of turn cards. They redo their ability again, so like they do it twice. So it's not like they redo, like it goes and resets it. But it's like the thing will get +2 power twice, so he gets +4 power in one turn, which is really solid if you're trying to get him as huge as possible, be able to destroy most cards in the game. But let's talk about some of these key counters as well. I think one of the main counters is going to be Armor. Armor, of course, makes it so you can't destroy cards here, so your thing would have no value in lane with Armor. Of course, Shadow King. Shadow King does reset the thing back to its 5/6 base, so it can destroy less cards now, since it's only a 6 power, opposed to potentially 8 to 10 power. And then, of course, Shang-Chi. If the thing gets to a 5/10 and, gets destroyed before the end of the turn and you can destroy a card, you get no value from your thing there, so Shang-Chi does counter that card as well. Talk about the good and the bad of this card. This card does work through Cosmo because it's not an auto-reveal ability. Also, keeping in mind, it doesn't destroy you until you want to because you have to fill the lane in order to destroy cards, so it won't preemptively destroy a card instead. And then it passively gains +2 power. You don't have to do anything for it to get +2 power. So it just kind of happens then and there. And then lastly, it can get to 5/10 if you don't destroy or if you rip it out early, which is pretty good stats for a 5-drop right now. 5/10, pretty good, and then more of the other techie kind of 5-drops too. But let's talk about the back. So with this card, it's not a targeted destroy. So like 2099, at least 2099, you have to move a card to another lane to destroy it. This here destroys any card that has less than the power that the thing has at the moment. Of course, if the card can't be destroyed, it doesn't get destroyed. But you can't just necessarily target it like a cannonball, at least targets the highest powered card in that lane. It can also only destroy if you fill the cards, like the thing's lane. If you don't fill the lane where the thing is on, you do not get to destroy a card. And then it's a potentially bad late card draw. It's 5/6, so it's kind of lacking in power in that sense. Of course, it goes to 5/8 at the end of the game, but it's just still not great because you don't get to fully use its ability, is what I'm thinking here. And it's a 5-cost, so unless you do ramp it out early, it's pretty much your entire turn 5, unless you also maybe use Sarah or any other sort of energy cheat, which makes it just a little tough, because 5-costs in general are a bit tough, you can say. But let's talk about the floor and the ceiling for this card as well. So, here's what we got going on. At the floor of this card, it is a potential bad late draw, and you might be unable to destroy a card. Or it is just a draw and you can't destroy a card. I think that could also be pretty bad. Just you don't get the full utility of this card. Granted, again, to 5/10 could be solid. But more often than not, you're going to be able to play out on curve or later with no buffs, and it gets to destroy a card. It just goes 5/6 to 5/8, and then you destroy a card while it's 5/8. You destroy something with less power than that. You see what Gladiator is doing right now with where it's at in the meta. Or at the very high ceiling, this card has some buffs. Maybe it gets hit by a Gwenpool, or a Mr. Fantastic First Steps, or a Surge. So it has extra power before it also gets the end of turn power. So then you have a larger pool of cards you can destroy with the thing in order to get better value of this card itself. Moving on over to the first deck, we have double Haymakers, which is kind of similar to the double Kitty deck that I made in the Human Torch video. But this time, you're kind of using it as a top end, kind of like how Cannonball was used in Derek's original list. You have different ways to get the thing higher up in power, so he destroys more cards, like I was talking about in that last slide too. You also have Kitty and Human Torch, the cards that can get really scary vertical power, and Frigga to be able to get copies of those cards as well. Next, of course, we have Big and Strong. A newer take on like a Big Dumb Idiots style list over here. Your goal is to try and get First Steps Thing out as early as possible, or just have all these other like larger cards to mess around with. There are a lot of 4-drops in this list, so it's very heavy, very bulky. But you have Mr. Fantastic, you also have Surge, and you have Luna Snow and Zabu to potentially get some of these cards out a little bit earlier to be able to get some of that Scar value, also some Surger value there. Getting the thing to a 5/10 would also be optimal. Of course, it's not going to give you the Surger value, but it does give you the Scar value. Next, of course, we have Tokens and Rocks. This is more so kind of like a token slam for Sasquatch things. You're doing this so you can fill the board more. That is why we have Johnny and why we have the thing in here, in order to have options to be able to get both their end of turn abilities, to proc the second end of turn ability, not just the first one, so you can have some better, outs, since you don't have, honestly, a lot of tech in this list. This card's very interesting to build for, I would say. It's not necessarily a plug and chug, kind of like how Johnny was, you're immediately going to get value from, which is why when I go through my rating here, I think the strength of being able to destroy a card with less power is cool, but it not being targeted, I think, is what really hurts it more. And I don't necessarily know if this is a card you really want in a set of 12. It might be more like the 14th or like 15th card in a lot of these lists. I'm sure someone will make a very solid list for this card, but right now I'm kind of leaning towards it's going to be a bust. I think I would wait, see if they make any changes to this card before getting this card. I cannot say that you guys need to go out of your way to get it and spend your resources. When the next week you get a card I definitely think you should spend your resources on. Spoiler alert. But we'll talk about that more going into next week. Because I think you kind of have to have some of these other cards to make some of these original cards better. Maybe next week's card will make the thing better, and maybe then it'll be worth getting a thing. But until then, I think it's probably best to just hold off and not get this. But I do want to continue to mention, like we say in every video, at the end of the day, spend your guys' resources the way you guys want to spend your resources. You guys are playing this game. This is something that brings you joy, hopefully, or it's some sort of entertainment. So, do whatever is going to bring you joy, or whatever is going to make you have the most fun playing this game. If you want to play a card like this, totally go out and get this card. I would just suggest maybe waiting a little bit into the week, or till the weekend, or just seeing what happens with any changes in the future before getting this card. Just because it may get better with Invisible Woman next week. It may just be a bad card, and there just are going to be bad cards that are released. They can't just always release good cards, right? And at the end of the day, I can be wrong about some of these cards. Other content creators can be wrong too. We don't really know what these cards are going to do in action. We are just theory crafting these cards right now. So just keep that in mind, just prospectively, when you guys are watching these videos, and when you guys are trying to pick out whether you want to get one of these cards or not. Resources are so valuable, and you don't get a lot of them still in Snap right now, so I'd be smart on what you spend them on. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. Until the next time, make sure you guys have fun playing Snap. And I think we got some new game modes and stuff coming out soon. I think we had High Voltage this week, so we had High Voltage is fun. And hopefully we get some fun with Grand Arena next week. But until then, hope you guys have a good one. God bless. It's been real.